Our third and last presentation for this session is Jungha. He's from Purdue as well. He's going to be talking about IsoMAP, a science gateway for isotopic landscape modeling. Go ahead, Jungha.
Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Jungha Wu, a software engineer at Purdue University Research Computing. Today I'm going to talk about IsoMAP, a science gateway for isotopic landscape modeling. So IsoMAP is an online workspace for spatial analysis and modeling and prediction tool for the stable isotope ratio variation. So what are isotopes? Isotopes are different forms of the same element. So all isotopes have the same protons, same number of protons, but different number of neutrons. So one is heavier than the other. The ratio between those heavy and light element is called the isotope ratio. And these ratios change over time and space, and they are recorded in the animal tissues. So if we can track the history of the isotope level or the isotope ratio, we can do research about the animal migration and human movement or the origins. So our portal allows users to explore, develop, and implement models for the isotopic ratio. And it has been in production for 11 years, since 2010. And we have a large user base, 2,400 users and 14,000 simulations. And it has also been used for some training events and graduate level short courses. So the picture you see in these slides was taken from the isotopic application in ecological studies in 2018. So let's see the architecture. IsoMAP architecture is quite straightforward. So IsoMAP web pages displays the maps using the open layers and GeoServer. And the users build a model, and the actual model runs on the backend Purdue cluster. And we do the statistical analysis. Basically, the first one is the linear regression, and the second one is geostatistics. And once we generate that isotopic models, we can apply that model to the interested area and space. So isoscapes are the result of the isotopic models. Sometimes isoscapes is the isotopic landscape or the prediction map. So model and the prediction results are stored in the NFS file system, and those results are registered at the GeoServer so that users can look up and check their prediction map makes sense or not. And the Apache Solr search engine was used for users to search the models they want to use for generating prediction map. So it allows users to search by the model type or the spatial condition or the temporal condition or even the case number and so on. In this slide shows the workflows of the IsoMAP. First, we build a model and then use that model to generate a raster file, the isoscapes. And that isoscape can be used for either finding origin of animals or the estimating the plant water map precipitation map. Here we focus on the linear regression statistics. So the basic idea is finding the relationship between y and axis. Here the y is the isotopic ratio, and x variables are the climate variable or environmental variables. So both y and axis are known. The isotopic level at level database is compiled by the Professor Bowen, our PI, and he collected those data from the IAEA stations and also from the laboratory data. And the climate data comes from multiple data sources, CRU, PRISM, eTopo. Basically, those data are the precipitation, maximum temperature, minimum temperature, vapor pressure, elevation, and so on. Those values are measured on the stations are used for the linear regression. So the goal here is, since we know x and y's, we want to estimate those coefficients, alpha, beta 1, beta 2, and so on, so that once we have this linear equation, we can predict isotopic ratio for any place in the world. Yeah, so we chose variable and data source. And then, although the researchers can use the whole past historical data, but they may only interested in the certain time and area of the data to form their models. So in that case, we can pose the spatial and temporal filters. For example, I can only use the station in United States or Europe, or Africa for a certain time, like past year or past 10 year or specific period, like 1980 to 1990. So by using those climate data and the observational data, we form the isotopic model, and then apply that model to any place the researchers wants to use. And then the result will be the map, predictive map, the raster file you will see in the right side. And from that, you can go either direction. So using that prediction map, you can try to find where isotope came from, or you can do the plant model prediction. Plant model is pretty much same as the precipitation model, but it deals or the predicts the isotopic ratio in plant leaves. So the output is quite similar to the predicted map. So now it's time to demo. In this demo, I'll show you how to create a model and how to use that model to predict or to create a prediction map. So do you see the my Chrome browser?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, cool. So this is the IsoMAP page. You can either go to the isomap.org or in this page, both. Yeah, if you go to the isomap.org, you will be redirected to this page. And if you don't have the account, you can click the register button and make a sign up for the new account for free. Since I have the account already, I log in and go to the precipitation model. So basically, yeah. So first step here is choosing the temporal period you want to use for the data. So in this case, by default, it used 1980, from 1980 to the 1990. I will choose the summer months from the 1985 to 1990, and then click the arrow button. The next, I want to use only the United States station. Then I can select the area only for the United States. And the next step is, now you can choose the dependent variable y. Our portal supports isotopic ratio for either hydrogen and oxygen. So either is fine. I will use hydrogen. And as I said before, you can select as many variables you want to use for explaining the dependent variable. For the demo, I will use maximum temperature and precipitation. This one has only one source, the maximum temperature, but for this selected period and selected area, there are two different sources. I will use station, and sometimes you can use either the intact form or the squared form or absolute form of the variable. So if you click that, it pre-validates, it checks whether you have enough valid stations in the selected area. So in this case, we are succeeded. Let's see, the model 1019 first. Then click the button. So now you can see the job status is created. Yeah, it only takes a few seconds. So you can either wait or go to the precipitation model and check the Explorer model. Explorer model shows the statistical property of the linear regression. So how well the model fits the data. It shows those information. And the next demo is, then we know we already created a model. Then how can we create a prediction map? So in this case, you pick the model. It only displays a model. So I pick the first one and choose the next button. Because that model was created for the United States, by default, it was displayed here. But you're not restricted there. You can choose the temporal period, and you can choose Europe. Basically, you're applying the model constructed from the United States, but apply that to Europe or the whole, all over the maps. And then click and data set. It makes some time for the pre-validation. So it will take some time. Let's go back to, okay, it's succeeded. So that prediction 2020 19 first. And then you will see your job will be updated here. Let's go back to the slide. Yeah, let's go there. Yeah, we also provided the REST API as well. So our model and the prediction map results can be pulled from outside by using the IsoMAP ID and password. So one example is advanced users wants to use the result from the IsoMAP and then do a more advanced, more technical analysis on their own machine. So in this case, they can get all the jobs or specific job. They can query specific type of jobs. And also they can also download the zip file for the results. So the summary is IsoMAP is in production for more than 10 years and has larger user base and can be connected to third-party analysis software. And we are collaborating with many diverse area. And in the future, we're thinking of extending our platform to cover other elements, such as we only cover hydrogen and oxygen, but in the future, we may cover carbon and nitrogen. And we are currently working with the strontium data sets for using the assignment model. And yeah, that's it for now. And our Science Gateway address is here. And if you have any question, please send me or Lan email about any questions. Thank you.
So thanks, Jungha. Yeah, so I think we have a couple of minutes for questions specifically to Jungha, and then we have 15 minutes until 3:30 to discuss any of the three papers that were presented here. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Zoom chat. You can also put them in the shared doc and Kiko, and I'll be going over there occasionally to see if there's any questions in there. I know there's a question for look, but let's start with questions for Jungha first. So while we have other questions coming in, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
The regression model that you showed where the user has the opportunity to select the dependent and independent, well, the independent variables. In your
Mhm.
experience, how well do researchers, I guess, respond to that? Do you think they is it easy for them to sort of figure out what they think the independent variables would be for the model, or how successful is the
Yeah,
training?
they can do. In general, when users include the longitude and latitude, their accuracy goes up. So the accuracy in terms of the R square value. So R square, if the R square value is close to 100, that can explain this best. Yeah. In our case, if you miss longitude and latitude, then the general accuracy goes down. So around, yes, in some case I saw 30% or 40% of accuracy. So the experienced user typically include the longitude, and yeah, you can check the accuracy and revise your model from the Explorer model tab. So
Okay.
that's how the typical users uh, do for
Okay.
the improvement.
Are there any other questions for Jungha? This is a really quiet group. All right, let me ask you another question then.
Sure.
So you talked about the data sets that you use, the various spatial, the crew and all of the Prism and all of those data sets.
Uh-huh.
So and you mentioned that these jobs are running on a cluster. So are these data sets hosted somewhere that the cluster has access to? How do you manage how the jobs get access to the data sets?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, yes. The raw climate data set are stored in the um, depot data space, and it is mounted to the Purdue cluster. So
Mhm.
while the backend script is running, they can also access the backend the raw data set. Uh,
So how large are these data sets? If you had to move the processing to a different cluster, how much data would you have to transfer there to?
I think in total it will be about 5 gig to 10 gig size.
Okay, so it's not too big then.
Yeah, but it gets updated monthly. So all the resolution of my data set is monthly.
Okay.